Next topic, basis risk. Well, basis is defined as the difference between the spot price and the future price, which is the instrument itself. So the spot price is the price of the underlying, the future price is the price of the hedging instrument. Now, S minus F is how we've defined basis risk as. In many textbooks, you would also see F minus S, because F future prices tend to be at a premium to spot. People would want to look at basis as the difference between spot and future. But we would stick to this particular expression. My basis is being defined as S minus F. Now, what are the reasons for the basis risk to exist? Why should there be a gap between the spot price and the futures price? The asset in the existing position is often not the same as that underlying the futures. Now, when we speak about the basis and the spot, one reason could be that we are essentially talking about two different things. The spot could be of a certain underlying, while the futures could have a different underlying, and hence the prices can vary, or the basis can itself fluctuate. The hedging horizon may not match perfectly with the maturity of the futures contract. Now let's try and understand. Basis risk is something which would exist. Futures would tend to trade at a premium or discount to spot way before the expiry. It's only on expiry that there would be a convergence between the two. Now, this being very predictable, there could be a scope for basis risk to exist and not to close down. One, because the underlying is that means the asset, and the futures with which it has been hedged does not have the same underlying. So let's say if I have an exposure to steel and I take a hedging position by way of selling iron ore futures, sometimes there could be a situation where steel prices move in one direction while iron ore prices move in the other, right? Or they move at a different pace altogether. So sometimes there could be structural reasons why the gap between the two could expand or could contract, right? And it might not correct itself even over time, and hence that could be one reason for a sustainable basis risk to build in once you've taken the position. Two, the hedging horizon may not match perfectly. So let me give you an example. I'm an exporter. I'm expecting, let's say, 10,000 euros, and this amount is going to come to me specifically on let's say 30th of March or on 25th of March. Now, I decide to go and sell futures, euro futures, to the extent of $10,000. So it could be that I don't have the amount, or maybe the contract amount is $10,000, but then the expiry date is 30th March instead of 25th March. So on 30th March, you happen to have received your euros on 25th March itself, but it's on 30th March that the futures expire. So clearly, the price at which you would be able to unwind your futures contract will not converge with the spot price at which you would be selling your euros in the open market. So you receive 10,000 euros on 25th March. You would ideally want to unwind your position on 25th March itself. So on 25th March, let's say your euro trades at let's say $1.4 per euro. So that's a price, that's a spot price of the euro. While so this is the price at which you would want to sell your euro, and hence you had gone ahead and shorted your euro futures well in advance. And let's say your euro futures trade at $1.42. Just 5 days left, you would have expected them to be almost in line with each other, but now there exists a 0.02 gap between the two. It is much more than what is warranted, let's say, but you have to still unwind your futures position. So the gap between the two has apparently grown larger or is wider than what you thought it would be on 25th March, just 5 days before expiry, but you perforce have to close your position. So ideally, a safe situation would be where your underlying transaction needs to take place in line with the expiry of the futures contract. If that doesn't happen, there's always a possibility that there would be gap between the two. And that's how it seems to be in this particular example. So two reasons for basis risk. One, the underlying need not match, so which I believe is termed as cross basis risk. And two, the hedging horizon may not match. So you have a certain exposure in the underlying which you would want to unwind on a particular date, while your futures have an expiry, have a settlement a little earlier than that, a little later than that, on account of which you would be exposed to risk, especially when you have your futures settlement happening later than what your transaction with respect to underlying is concerned. So your underlying transaction is happening on 25th, your futures ideally is getting settled on, ideally should get settled on 25th, but has its settlement date on 30th. So you unwind it 5 days before settlement, thereby exposing yourself to basis